Hi guys. It has been quite a long time. I decided to take a little bit of a break just because every time I tried to film these videos, these top 10 videos, I just wasn't liking them and I really didn't want to post something that I wasn't liking. So I decided to take a break and try and come back to it, and so that's why this video is so late. So hopefully I like this one and we'll post it. But this is my top 10 movies of the year 2019. This is based off of the movies that I watched in 2019, and primarily, yes, most of the movies I watched in 2019 were 2019 releases, but I also included the ones that were not 2019 releases. If you want to know every single movie that I watched in the year 2019 to see what I am basing this off of, go and check out my 2019 book and movie statistics video, because in that video I list every single movie that I watched, and then also like some statistics that are pretty fun. I don't know, for me, I really enjoy that video. It's one of my favorites that I've come out with. If you are curious, I have been doing these top 10s for 5 years now, I think, so I will list down below all the other top 10 movies from the past 5 years. I also did a top 10 books and top 10 TV shows of the year 2019, so I can put that down below as well, so you can just check out all of the video. But let's just get started, and I always like to start out these videos with my favorite guilty pleasure of the year. So there were a lot to choose from. I had some Disney Channel movies that I watched, I had some Hallmark movies that I watched, but ultimately I did not choose one of those as a guilty pleasure for the year. I actually chose Murder Mystery. I freaking loved this movie, and I know it's not great. Like, I know it's not, but it's definitely my kind of humor. I have actually rewatched it 2 times so far this year in 2020. I laugh with like every single line. I also really do enjoy the story. I have such a fun time with this movie. So now let's go into honorable mentions, and I will be listing my honorable mentions in order. So technically I'm giving you my top 15 movies of the year. So the first honorable mention, which I guess is technically number 15, is Booksmart. I know what you're thinking. Why is this not higher up on your list? I think it's because I think so many more people enjoyed this movie a lot more than I did. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. This was so great and so fun. But ultimately I did have a few little issues with it that were issues for me, but like were things that other people really loved about the movie. But it is still in my top movies. I mean, I watched 108 movies this year, so out of 108, and this is at number 15, it's pretty good. I also just loved the friendship that was in this movie. That was my favorite part of it. This is a movie that follows 2 girls. They just finished their last day of senior year, they're ready to graduate, but they've realized that they haven't done really anything fun with their lives except just study it to try and get into good colleges. But then they find out that all of their classmates who partied also got into the same colleges as them, and so they're just kind of like, we never partied, so they decided to live it up on their last day of being a high schooler and go crazy wild, and it is such a blast. It's hysterical. This is a really funny movie that I enjoy a lot. The next one I have is Brittany Runs a Marathon. Okay, when I first watched this movie, I loved it so much and it was gonna be in my top 10, but after thinking about it for a while, I pushed it down. But it's still a really great movie and I highly recommend seeing it. To me, it was an inspiring movie. It's about, I think it's also based off of a true story. Don't quote me on that because I actually can't remember. And this is about a woman who is not living the healthiest lifestyle, not just physically, like with her eating habits, and like she parties every night, she stays out super late, but also just with like her emotional and mental health too. Like she's not doing well overall and she just seems kind of lost. And her doctor tells her to lose 50 pounds, which is like honestly kind of rude, but she decides to go for it and she goes running and she ends up running a marathon. But it's not just about her like losing the weight, it's about how her making one good life decision to like maybe try running helps her make other healthier decisions in her life, and her life becomes better. Sorry to spoil the ending, but that's pretty much it. I found it super inspiring and it made me want to go for runs, but unfortunately with all my back problems this last year, was not able to go for runs. My next honorable mention is Happy Death Day. This is a movie that did not come out in 2019, but one that I absolutely loved, along with Happy Death Day to You, which did come out in 2019. I'm not a horror movie person. Like, I cannot do horror movies, but this was a great horror comedy. It's basically like Groundhog Day meets horror. This girl keeps reliving the same day over and over and over again, and at the end of the day, she gets murdered, and she has to try to figure out who is murdering her. I really thought the acting in this was incredible, especially from the main actress, how she goes from kind of like confused in the beginning to just flat out pissed off and angry in the end, and she is just like done. It's, oh my god, I loved her acting so much in this, as well as too just like the filming of it, having to film like the same day over and over, but making sure that it definitely looks like it's also a different day. My next honorable mention is another one that I wish had made my top 10, but that is The Report. This is the year that I officially fell in love with Adam Driver. I'm a huge Adam Driver fan, and I will now watch anything that he is in. This was one of those movies that just like really hit me hard. I definitely recommend if you watch this movie, but go into it being ready to like experience something that's difficult to experience. This is all based on true story. We follow a guy who, I don't remember who he works for, but it's something with the government, and he is investigating the CIA and their practices, and their like torture practices that they used on Muslim men right after the 9/11 attacks, and you find out things that are very hard to learn and very hard to watch, because they do reenact a bunch of the tortures, and it was just some of the most inhumane things I have ever seen and learned. And I can't believe that our government did this to a bunch of people that actually didn't have any connections to Osama bin Laden at all. And I remember like kind of seeing this on the news here and there, and like reading articles online about this. And so just to learn that everything that was said in those news pieces and articles and stuff were all lies was kind of like hard hitting for me. But I thought this was very well told and super well acted, not just by Adam Driver, but by everyone. I thought this movie did a really great job portraying what it needed to portray. And I love movies like this too, kind of like biographies in a sense, where you learn things about the world, and so I highly recommend this one, but just be warned, it's sometimes hard to watch. And the last honorable mention, technically number 11, is Klaus. I was so surprised by this. This is a Netflix Christmas movie about how Santa Claus came to be and how it all started with a mailman. And this was just really cute and really adorable, but also so well done. This is just a super well executed and well told story, and I'm so happy it got an Oscar nomination even though it didn't win, but that's okay. I was surprised that it got an Oscar noms, and I'm so proud of them for it. This is so good. This is definitely a Christmas movie I want to watch every Christmas. Alright, now we're finally into the top 10s. And at number 10, I have Downton Abbey. I may be a little bit biased putting this so high on my list because it's one of my all-time favorite TV shows, and since this movie was coming out, it got me the chance to rewatch the series and like fall back in love with it because it had been a couple years. It also just felt really great to go back to these characters and to this world, and the movie did such a good job blending with the TV show. It definitely felt like it was like an extra long special episode of Downton Abbey, so I like that they still kept the essence of the show and the way it's filmed and the way that it's told, because you do get a bunch of different storylines and they're all like told at the same time. My only issue with it is that there was not enough Henry Talbot. Like, where was he? He was only in like the last 2 scenes. I would have liked for him to have been there the entire time. And I'm just so happy that like everybody got a happy end. Not to like ruin anything, but everybody got a happy ending, and it just warms my heart so much. I really truly love this movie. At number 9, I have Marriage Story, another Adam Driver movie. This one got him an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. He didn't win, but that's okay. But this is definitely a movie that I don't want to say I'm surprised I liked, but just because it's so slow-paced, I'm surprised that I enjoyed a slow-paced movie. I think also the reason it's high on my list, because I feel like I would have put this lower just because of the slow-pacedness, but I think the reason I put it higher is just because of the connection I feel to the movie, the personal connection. It's about these 2 people who are going through a divorce and a custody battle for their child, and it was interesting watching it because my parents went through a divorce probably around the same time that the kid in the movie is. Like, I was that age. I know my parents divorced through my eyes, but this movie kind of helped me see what it was like maybe through their eyes, and it was really heartbreaking. Sorry, something distracted me outside. It was just heartbreaking to watch, but still very good. I thought this was an incredibly written story. My God. Okay, number 8. I feel like I need to definitely defend myself with this one because this is on so many people's worst movies of the year list. But this is one of my favorites, hence why it's in my top 10. That is Aladdin. I know. Everybody hates this movie. I love this movie. I saw it 4 times in the theaters. I had so much fun with this movie, and I thought it was very well executed. I loved the new songs, and I liked how they kind of modernized the old songs, and they sounded amazing. I was really surprised with Will Smith. I did not think I was going to like him as the genie, but I freaking loved him as the genie. He was so good. And Jasmine was great, and Aladdin was great. Like, everybody just really brought their all with this, and I thought the production design was incredible and the costumes were incredible. I just really enjoyed every single thing about this movie, and I legitimately can't think of anything bad about this movie. And I don't know why it's on people's worst lists. Like, I don't get it. And at number 7, I have Jojo Rabbit, a movie that I knew I was gonna love. I knew it. Just from watching the trailers, I was like, I'm going to love this movie. But we follow a little boy who, it's during the World War II, and he is becoming a Nazi, and he has Hitler as like his imaginary friend, and it's just, and so he's like going to school to become a Nazi, and it's actually quite funny. I know it doesn't sound funny, but it's a comedy. What I like about it actually too is that it's a comedy that knows when to be funny and when to be serious. We do also have another plotline to the story, which is that the mom of the little boy is hiding a Jewish girl in the house, and he finds her and doesn't know what to do. He's like, should I turn her in? It's great. Let's move on. Number 6, I have How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. I am so surprised that I'm putting this up so high on my list as well. But this was great. Honestly, all of the How to Train Your Dragon movies have just been consistently amazing, which doesn't usually happen with trilogies, let alone animated trilogies. And this was just such a really great conclusion. I absolutely love the animation style of these movies, and I love all the colors and like how bright it was. And when we saw The Hidden World, it was like my jaw legitimately dropped. It was astonishing. If you haven't watched any of the How to Train Your Dragon movies, I highly recommend them. They're not just for kids, I promise you. Adults can enjoy these movies as well. So now let's move on to number 5, and at number 5 I have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I am surprised by this one, which is surprising that I was surprised because I haven't watched all of Quentin Tarantino's movies, but the ones that I have watched, I have loved. So I don't know why I didn't think I was not gonna love this one. but I loved this movie. I was also surprised with the fact that it's a super long movie, but it didn't feel long. That third act of the movie, you guys, like, that sold it for me. I was liking it with like the first 2 acts, but that third act, yes, made me love it so much. We followed 2 guys. One of them is an actor that's slowly like fading and is not being like as relevant or as popular anymore, and his stunt double. And they're friends, and there's like a cult that they run into. It's the 70s in Hollywood. We also have the character of Sharon Tate. If you know anything about her, I think you have an idea of where this movie is going. But I promise you, you are not going to expect the ending. At number 4, I have Knives Out. This definitely felt like an Agatha Christie style murder mystery story. I really enjoy Agatha Christie, so I definitely need to read more of Agatha Christie's books. That's all I'm going to say about it, is that it's like a murder mystery, and you don't know who in the family did it or what happened. But like, guys, oh my god. I think this was the best ensemble cast for the year, for sure. These group of people together was just, it was electric on the screen. I loved it so much. And I thought Ana de Armas, I had never heard of her before until this movie, and she was the clear standout in this movie. She was amazing. I also really enjoyed the cinematography and the way it was like shot. It was so cool. 100% in love with this movie. Now it's time for number 3, and at number 3, I have a Star Wars movie. I finally watched all of the Star Wars movies for the first time in the year 2019 and have become a Star Wars nerd. I love Star Wars. So I figured I had to put a Star Wars movie in my top 10. I could have put more in here, but I felt like I should just leave it at 1, so that way I can leave space for other movies, so I'm not just talking about Star Wars the entire video. And so the one I've ultimately chosen, which is my favorite Star Wars movie, is The Empire Strikes Back. I don't think I really need to say much about it. I feel like we're all in agreement that it's the best one, right? I don't really know quite what to say about this. I feel like everything's already been said about this movie. It's a great franchise as a whole, but Empire Strikes Back just definitely is like a lot more darker, and it has a great like plot twist at the end. So Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, such a great film. And that fight scene at the end too, oh my god, I'm on the edge of my seat. And my favorite line, I love you, I know. So good. At number 2, I have The Peanut Butter Falcon. I thought this was such an underrated film. Like, so many more people should have been talking about it, so many more people should have been watching it, and I don't know why it didn't get any recognition at the awards and stuff. And I definitely think Shia LaBeouf is making a good comeback. He has had a rough couple of years. If you haven't watched Honey Boy, which is kind of like his movie that's about his life and his childhood, yeah, he had a rough couple of years and a rough life. And so I'm happy that he's come back to the screen. Because the last thing I really liked him in was Holes. Back in his like Disney days. Which I do miss him in his Disney days. But this was fantastic. Not just Shia LaBeouf, but just the movie in general. We follow a person with Down syndrome, and he's living in a retirement old folks home, because I forget why, but like that's where he has people taking care of him. He really wants to be a wrestler, so he escapes and starts on his journey to a wrestling school that he like found out about through some like VHS tape. On his way, he runs into Shia LaBeouf's character, who is also on the run from doing something illegal, and they team up and walk together in whatever. But also we have someone from the old folks home, or from the retirement home, sent to go and find him and bring him back. And it's more of just like a movie about discovering yourself, I guess. But also to this like really great friendship that happens and emerges from these circumstances, and it's fantastic. My favorite scene is definitely like Shia LaBeouf on the sand at night, and he's just sitting there talking to Zach about, you know, not letting people get you down and don't believe what other people say about you. And it's just, he does such a great job with that whole monologue. It's fantastic. Time for number one. Are you ready? At number one, I have Parasite. Now I know what you're thinking. I promise you I made this list before the Oscar nominations even came out. So I was so happy and so excited that Parasite won the Oscar for Best Picture. And it won so many other Oscars as well. I went into this movie not expecting to like it, just because usually movies that the critics are like, this is amazing and everything, and like, I usually don't agree with critics, is what I'm trying to say. So the fact that like critics were all loving this movie, I was like, I probably won't like it as much as them. I feel like I'll like it, but I'm not gonna be all like, oh yeah, this is the best movie ever made. But it is. I don't even know how to describe this movie. It is just, it starts off as one thing, and then like halfway through the movie, the tone just completely shifts to something else. And the acting is amazing, and just everything about this movie is perfection. And yeah, I'm very happy it won a bunch of Oscars, because those are well-deserved Oscars. Alright, and that is it for my top 10 movies of the year. Again, please go also check out my top 10 books and TV shows for the year 2019. And again, I'm sorry that this video was so late, but I hope you will forgive me. And I will see you guys later with more videos. Bye!